Okay. Um, okay. Okay. So I'm going to start off by showing off the original version of the website. This was a project that banded together a set of districts. And the purpose is really to try to understand the quality of their school, what's going right and what's going wrong. And the a lot of this work was pioneered by a professor, Jack Schneider, who wrote a book, A Better Way to Measure School Quality. Um, the traditional way that to know whether or not you have a good school is to look at test scores, but that's very one-dimensional, and it really doesn't help to understand how to change your school in order to make it a better school. And there's a lot of other things that go on in a school, and it's important for school administrators and teachers to understand, to better understand what's going on in their school, to be able to plan and take action to improve the quality of the school. So I'm going to go ahead and click through just to show you what the site used to look like. Okay, so I'm just going to click on the first school here, and when you land on this page, you can get an idea of how well your school is doing in terms of the different categories. There are five major categories: teachers and leadership, school culture, resources, academic learning, community, and well-being. I'm going to go ahead and click on school culture here. So the way these scores are generated is surveys are sent to a school, and students take the surveys, teachers take the surveys, the academic leadership at the school takes the surveys, and you get results back in what's called Likert scores. So these are scores from 1 to 5, and so this histogram here is presenting the scores, the average of all those scores for school culture, and it is additionally subdivided into subcategories. So I'm going to go ahead and click the safety category here, and we have student physical safety, student emotional safety. I'm going to go ahead and click on student physical safety. And so we can just get a sense of the kinds of questions that are being asked here. How often do students get into physical fights at your school? How often do you feel like you might get harmed by someone at school? So looking back at the original code, the project started in 2017, and it was started or there was a single developer at the time, and he worked together with Jack and a few other people to try to develop the framework. A lot of that time was spent changing how questions were asked, adding and removing uh, different measures from the framework, and basically field testing all of the entire framework to something that worked for schools and gave a more complete picture of what was going on. This project was a success. I mean, the schools were using this tool to make decisions about where to allocate their resources, and a lot of these schools have limited resources, so they have to intelligently allocate either time or money or attention to fixing the problems that are most relevant to their school. Um, so this project was a success. there was this is this project was then decided, okay, we're gonna get some money from the state, and we're gonna turn this into um, a better looking an application that works for more people. We're gonna try to improve this with funds that provided by the state of Massachusetts. Great, awesome. So a company was contracted, and I'm not going to say the name of the company, but their software is used in 1 out of 5 schools in the country. And at the time, I mean, they were very well established, more 10 years in the industry, and what they do, what their software does is it it provides a view of academic the academic profile of what's going on in the school in terms of grade test scores. And they're good at what they do. You know, they obviously a lot of people find it very, very useful, but it's not what this project was trying to do. And what ended up happening is that at every turn, they were trying to steer the set of features to what uh, they have already provided, that what they've already built. Unfortunately, what they've already built is not this that provides a more complete picture of what's going on. Their tools can tell you the probability of an individual student graduating. It can say this student has a 58% probability of graduating from this school, but it can't tell you about the school culture. And so $100,000 was invested into trying to develop this with the company. At the end of the $100,000, nothing was delivered. There was just no software, no usable software. So the contract was ended, and a different company was contracted to continue the efforts, and that company is I can actually name them. That company is VMware. And VMware took a look at what was needed, and they said, okay, well, you have this custom piece of software here that you want to exist. It looks like there's already, some preliminary code that's written, and what we're going to do is we're going to work with you. We're going to work with you to improve the already existing code. And in order to do this, we're going to need two things. We're going to need a developer, and we're going to need a product manager on your side. And that's where I come into the picture. I was the developer that was chosen, and so what the way that VMware chose to work with us was really taking into account the fact that there needed to be an aspect to building out the set of features that involved the customer, which was us, and it also needed to involve the users of the site, and it needed to do that for a variety of different reasons. The goal was ultimately to make sure that to ensure the long-term success of the project. So the first company, what they wanted to do was take their core strengths and say, okay, we're going to make small changes to what we already provide, and we're gonna take over this code base, and then we'll in a few months we'll deliver something to you. VMware's approach was different. Because instead of saying, okay, we're gonna handle everything, they really understood that in order to make a product that works, they have to understand why people use it, and a better plan for the roadmap of features. Um, so VMware took that set of features that was asked for, and what they delivered looked like this. It looks very different. I'm going to go ahead and click the same school. And so what you have here is something that functionally does something very, very similar. It looks very, very different. And you can see here that there's a few more features that are going on here. If we can come in here, I can drill down to school culture, student physical safety, and we see we have the same set of questions. Great. This was done in 3 months. And in that 3 months, what they did was not just deliver, the overview and the browse page were delivered in 3 months. And so in that 3 months, they not only wanted to make sure that they delivered features, they also wanted to make sure that I was prepared to take on the project myself, and that my manager was prepared to take on the project of product management himself, because he is he's not a product manager in the traditional sense. He's comes from a background in education. So this set of features here was, so when making the choice of what technologies to use, what VMware chose was to continue the work from the original project. And what that allowed us to do was to piggyback off of a lot of the tables that had already been made for us, and to it actually just sped up our work, because there was a lot of boilerplate that didn't have to be rewritten from scratch. We could rely on certain things existing within the framework. Another thing that happened was that these developers were experienced with they had experience with React and Node. The last time they had touched Ruby on Rails was Rails 3, and at the time this project was on Rails 5. And what they said was that they were really, really surprised with how much faster it was to deliver features with using Ruby on Rails than it was to work in React. And I mean, a lot of this is just the feature set that or the technology choices that we were making are pretty simple. I mean, a lot of it looks like simple HTML and CSS under the hood. Even the diagrams that we're looking at here are just hand-drawn SVG. There's not a lot to the code base. Great. So, after they after those 3 months, the team was became just myself and one product manager. And so in that time, because of the success of this project, there were other sites that spun up because of the success. There's this HALS dashboard, which is a partnership with Lowell Public Schools, and what they wanted was, well, we want to use that framework, and we want to use the code base, but they also wanted additional features. You know, they're working on multiple surveys per year. They're working on early education surveys, which are surveys starting from kindergarten to 3rd or 4th grade. Those kids cannot be given the same questions as older children. And what you have to do is you have to adjust the framework. You have surveys that are, instead of a 1 to 5 Likert scale, you have happy face, sad face responses for the earlier kids. So it's a different set of features, and that project has been a success so far. The success of these two projects has led to a third project spinning up, and this is a project that is behind password protection, so I'm not going to open that up. But the scale of the problem is a little bit different. So we went from a team of 4 developers who all had more than 10 years of experience, and an experienced project manager on the VMware side who was teaching my manager. So we went from that team to just 2. And we have to do, well, now we have to spin up 3 sites, and we actually have a 4th site that I code, which is the public website facing website for ECP, and this is also a Rails framework. So there's a lot to do here. There's the scale of the amount of coding and the amount of features that need to be delivered is pretty big. So how do we be successful as a 2-man team? So it's 1 developer and 1 project manager. So one of the reasons that we can be so fast is that Rails allows me to be so fast. There's not a lot of complexity here. If the site was more complex, it would be so much harder to add features. To say, okay, well, now we're going to have an analyze page where you can disaggregate the data by race, gender, and other things, right? So this page here, you can come in and you can see the data in various different ways. You can select multiple school years, right? You can see all the survey data averaged out. So all the teacher averages, all the admin data that we have, and then all that data averaged out. We have different views on that. So if you only want to see teacher and student surveys, averages, then you have a view for that. And if you want to see the data disaggregated by race or grade or gender, you can do that as well. So that's a whole other set of features to add to the website. And this set of features was it would have been a lot harder in other frameworks. But I mean, I'm really not doing anything super complex here. Okay. So Rails is one of the reasons that I can work by myself. I work in the entire stack, front end, back end. I'm trying to be the security analyst as well. I'm DevOps. I wear a lot of hats. I'm the test team. So there's a lot to do. And if it were a more complex framework, I would not be able to handle it all by myself, especially not for the 3 dashboards that we have, and also our public-facing website. Great, Rails. That's one of the reasons. Number 2, all the work we did not do. So that's not what I wanted. Sorry. So we had a designer, or actually, I should rephrase that. VMware provided us with a designer. He is an excellent designer. He's moved on from VMware to now work on as a senior designer for Spotify. But this is the work that he provided for us. So you can see these are the original designs that he made, and they're in Figma. And we still refer to a lot of the designs that he created in Figma. so if I zoom out, you can see all the designs that were sent to the developers here. So there's some designs that got refactored here. Our none of our views look like this anymore. After delivering these features, the client said, well, we don't like the colors, and we actually want different features, which we delivered on. And as you can see here, there were in those 3 months we got a lot done. We got a lot of the views done. I want to show you something that I don't see talked about in many places, and that is all the work that we did not do. Because as fast as Rails is, it's not as fast as a designer, right? But even the designer, the view that I'm showing here is our archive of designs that were initially planned but never made it to a developer. If we had to deliver on all of these designs here, it would have taken us years. But the fact that it went to the design phase and the designs were vetoed for one reason or another meant that the developer team never saw these designs. And just to show you the scale of what was not delivered, what never made it to a developer, there's a lot of designs here. And that's not the end of it. Those were the ones that were outright rejected. And then there were other stories. I'm going to change the view here to work in progress. And this is also a set of features that were worked on, but that were modified. And so the developers didn't have to implement most of these either. The set of stories that actually made it to the developers were this set of stories. And I don't know how other companies operate. To be honest, this is my first job as a professional developer. Prior to this, I had been just a hobbyist for a long time, a hobbyist for 20 years. So I'd been used to working on my own and delivering things for myself that I could see in my own head. But it's quite a different story to work on a team of people and to have to communicate about what features you're actually going to deliver on. Yeah, so I wanted to show you just the scale of things that weren't worked on, because I don't think I haven't heard it phrased like that before. Okay, so so Rails is really fast for prototyping. A designer is even faster for prototyping. You know what's even faster than a designer though is work that never made it out of the idea phase. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our planning board here. Okay, so I gotta scroll to the right. Sorry, it's being really laggy because there's a lot here. So there's a lot of blank sticky cards here. They're meant to represent interviews that we had with the end users. These are teachers mainly, school administrators. But what we did was we did interviews with all these people, and they gave us ideas of how they use the original tool and what they wanted to see, what they wanted to get out of the original tool. And so from each one of those meetings, we created sticky notes and then we added them to the board. We organized those sticky notes in terms of like classifications. But what it meant was that most, and it was on the order of some 500 stickies, right, of ideas that people said they wanted, but they were like one-offs. So we ended up ruling out most of those ideas, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. And what we were left with was the set of stickies that helped us plan the features that were most common and the set from the set of users that well, basically we found commonalities in what people were saying, and we said, okay, we only have 4 developers, we only have 3 months. What are the most important things to work on? And from this set of stickies, we developed an action plan of what needed to be delivered. This meant that, that those 500 stickies, they never made it to the designer. And then those designs never made it to the developers. And so if we had chosen to implement all those ideas, and if we had chosen to implement all those designs, and then if all those designs had been sent to the developers, it would have taken a massive team and many more years to actually churn out a working product. Great. So so the first learning that I have from this is basically, in order to work fast, you have to cut out a lot of work that you should not do, and you have to find intelligent ways to not do to find out the scope of work that you should be doing and the scope of work that you should not be doing. Great. The next thing, I work in small batches. If the more complex a story is, the harder it is for me to deliver. A 1-point story is anything that takes me about a day in complexity. 2-point stories are, a few days to complete. And 3-point stories are stories I say no to. Those go back to the drawing board. It's so much easier to deliver stories, simple stories. And when you deliver simple stories, you deliver simple code. The more complex a story is, the more you start architecting. And when you start architecting, you start writing code that doesn't really need to be in your code base. At least that is my experience. Another thing, so automate as much as possible. And I'm one person, so I've automated a lot of the CI/CD process. I have my own ways of automating the way that I do things. But remember, this is a 2-person team, and my manager does quality assurance for me, which means that whenever we put up a score, we want to be confident that we are showing the right score to. So here. So when we say that the score is 3.9, my manager wants to be sure that it's 3.9 because these schools are making real decisions that are going to affect people in Massachusetts. So my manager also has other roles and duties, including just speaking to the districts. He will go and train people on how to use the tool, and he'll try to get more schools and districts to try to use the tool. There's a lot of things that he has to do, and so one of the things that he had to do in the beginning was to collect all the enrollment numbers for the schools. Now we serve more than 200 schools. It's approaching 250 right now. But the first pass at the enrollment numbers looked like this, where he would have to go to the District of Massachusetts database to figure out by school how many students were in that school, and then he'd basically copy and paste those numbers back into our code base, and then I would ingest those into our database. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. That's time that he doesn't need to be doing those things. So, though I've automated that process, right? It means that he no longer has to waste his time doing tasks that are very prone to error and that take up a lot of time. We just have two people to work with. We cannot be wasting time. So we've automated that. We've automated getting the staffing data. We've automated getting the administrative data. Administrative data, I realize I have not described. Administrative data looks like this. So in this school, we want the we're looking at the percent teachers of color, percent teachers with 10 days of absences, percent teachers returning, and then we'll set a benchmark for what we think is what the benchmark should be, and then we'll provide a score based on that. So that's school level data. So we've automated acquiring some of that school level data. There's some that I have not been able to get because we don't have public sources for, but that's still a goal, right? So automate as much as possible. GitHub Copilot is one of the things that has improved my my coding speed, and people talk about it, but I think it's important for me to show you real world, like what I mean by faster, because it's really, and I know this, it's usually a bad idea in presentations to do live coding, but I'm gonna try. So I'm gonna hopefully it all goes okay. So I'm gonna navigate to my my repository, and I'm gonna check out a previous commit. Because this is real. I want to show you a real life problem that I had and the difference it made. Okay, so I'm gonna check out a commit here. Okay, so bundle, and then I have to set my Ruby version 3.2. Okay, bundle. Great. So I've opened up the file that I was testing, and this file, this is a spec that loads the entire. Hold on. Let me increase my. Okay, so this is a spec, and what it does is it tests the application. First, it loads the seeder, right? So we have a big framework. There's a lot of things to load, and this is very, very slow. On the order, it's more than a minute. So so let me show you how slow. So. Spec services. Oh. So that's going to take a while to complete. So I'm going to go ahead and get started editing this this spec file, right? So I'm going to remove this seeder. I'm going to go ahead and what I want to do is move this file to here. Okay, so I'm going to comment out this code. What this code is doing here, let me make this big. So what this code is doing here is finding an academic year, finding a DESI ID after it's already been seeded, right? So we're finding schools, we're finding the admin data item after it's already been seeding. But we no longer seed anything, so we have to create these with RSpec. So I'm going to go ahead and comment these out. GC file down. And then I'm going to go ahead and start creating them. And let me go back. Our test still hasn't, it's still running. Our test is still running. Okay, so we're going to okay, so actually I'm going to yank, paste, GC. I'm just going to change inside of this parentheses. And then I'm going to create, is that what I want to do? Yes, Copilot. That's what I want to do. Change inside curly braces, create school, DESI ID. That looks right. Okay, thanks. Change inside here, create school, DESI ID. Yeah. Change inside, create school. Awesome. Okay, this is so those were the schools and the academic years. This is the admin data item. So it's a different thing. Change inside here. So create okay. Let's see. Yep. Admin data item, admin data ID. That looks correct. Change inside. Yeah, that looks right as well. And sometimes, like this unexpected token, GitHub or Copilot creates things that or syntax errors, so I have to fix that. And then I know that so I'm cheating a little bit because I've already done this, but I know that my CSV file also has an additional school, so I'm going to create that school. And that's the wrong DESI ID, so I'm going to change that to 1850090. Okay. And then I have one additional admin data item. So let's a reso. And this is going to be yeah, that looks right. Okay, so the test ran and it finished in 1 minute and 17 seconds. Right? Let me cross my fingers. Create. I knew it was a bad idea, but you get the idea. Sorry, I don't think I have time to fix it because I have 6 minutes left. But all the boilerplate, all these create statements, all these creating admin stuff, it would have taken me much longer to write them. Right? Yeah, I'm not going to bother. I have other things to talk about. But you can see. The end result is that this test ends up finishing in a few seconds instead of 1 minute and 17. Okay, let me go back to my presentation here. Continuous improvement. One of the other things that has helped us along the way, and it is actually a practice that was provided or modeled by VMware, was retros and speedback. And what we found was basically we have retros at the end of the week, and we use that time to figure out what happened and any ways that things could be improved. And in terms of the software development process. And speedback we have once every 2 weeks, and we use that to work out any interpersonal things that we want to chat about. And we found that those two meetings have really helped us figure out like better ways of working and better ways of working together. Um, because you can be a really really fast team, but you're always going to get outdone by a team that's always improving their processes. Okay. And then something, these are ideas that we have not, that have not yet been proven because making time for learning is something that I asked for as of 2 weeks ago. Uh, it's something that Google has the 20% time. Microsoft has like Learning Fridays or something. Um, but it's time that you set aside to learn new things. And as a very very small team, we have to know a little bit of everything. Um, so now, my manager admitted to me the other day that oh yeah, the um, Google Analytics that you set up for that site for our site. Well, I'm just getting around to learning more about it, which is great. I want him to use it. I want him to be successful at it. But it's not going to happen unless you make time for it. And so that's one of the things that we're trying out right now. We'll see how it goes. I'm very very hopeful for it. Open source. That's why we're github.com. The project right now is in this repository. This repository is private at the moment. So I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to go to manage and we're going to go to the danger zone. I am fully behind open source software. And yeah, now it's public. One of the other projects that I work on is LunarVim, and LunarVim at the moment has something like 14,000 stars on GitHub. I learned a lot from this project, and I have been a long time proponent of open source. So I've been pushing for our project to become open source, and it is funded by the state of Massachusetts, and it's for the people of Massachusetts. So the governing board voted for us to be able to open source the code base. You can go in and see what's going on in the code base. Um, there, I have bigger plans for the code. We have 3 different dashboards, and it's been very hard for me to, to provide bug fixes for all 3 dashboards. One of the ways that I've been going about it is just the 3 different branches that you see here are represent the 3 different websites, and I've just been patching code from one branch to another to bring features over. This is not the ideal way to work. In the future, I hope to extract the commonalities between the different dashboards and put that into a different repository that is basically a Rails engine that provides a certain set of functionality, and it will be the core set of features. Um, at the moment, I'm super busy. I got a lot of projects, and I haven't had time to implement those ideas. But we'll see. Maybe by open sourcing the code, people can go and check it out, and maybe they'll get some value, and maybe they'll also think about contributing back to the code base, and either fixing bugs or documentation, or helping me strategize about how to extract out some of this code into an engine and let it live. Okay, so my timer has told me that that is 45 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and stop my presentation and leave time for questions. Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I do have some test coverage. I try to take a TDD approach. Well, there are some exceptions to that. Like I was on a big time crunch for the whole analyze page, and the rest of the code base is pretty well tested, and that analyze page is very, very lightly tested. And I kept telling myself, you know what? I'm on a big time crunch. I'm going to deliver these stories, and once I deliver these stories, I'll go back and I'll fill in some of those tests. But there was more story. There's always more stories, and so I kept telling myself, okay, after I finish this other story, I'll go back and fill in some of those tests. And then eventually, it got to the point where I realized, oh, I have lost all context, and now if I want to go back and write those tests, it's going to be a lot harder. And so I I didn't write tests for the analyze page because I said, oh yeah, I can deliver this story without writing all these tests, and I did. The problem is now anytime I change the code on that page, I don't trust it, and it doesn't make me feel good. And I wish that past Nelson had been more thorough about testing that page. But you know, every time I deliver new features, I do have a strategy for working quickly, and the strategy is work in small batches and only deliver the code that needs to be written for the story to pass, right? So with certain caveats, you know, there's always a balance to strike between making the code easy to reason about and doing the least amount of work possible to write those features. And the thing is, like, in the first pass, I always try to limit the amount of refactoring that I do. The second pass, I always refactor. And it's because I have more context the second time. I know how this code has interacted with other code, and I know how and I have more time to think about how I would have refactored. And also, I am a different person because time has passed and I've learned more. So when I touch a story a second time, I am a more experienced developer. But what it means is, I mean, it's basically the Boy Scout motto, where you leave a place cleaner than you found it. And but what it means is that I do a minimal amount of work for the first pass, and then each time I go through and touch that code, I make it a little bit better. And so code that was ugly but works, and I never had to touch again, fine. But code that I has a lot of churn is code that I clean up every time I look at it. Yeah, and that writing tests is where I use it most often because writing code, Copilot often inserts like logical errors that are harder to sort out. So it's I don't use it as much for delivering features as much as I do for writing the tests, and especially the boilerplate for those tests. Yeah, and you have to understand what it's good for. I mean, it's a language model. It understands language, so it finds patterns in the language, and it is very good at repeating the patterns that it finds. But it does not understand code, um, and you shouldn't think it does. Any other questions? VMware has a lot of uh, they're a very professional company that contracts out to help other companies either improve their code or add new features or get them out of trouble. So their developers are super experienced and their designers are really great. And so they had a lot of processes already in place. Um, I mean, it's there's a lot of stuff that there's just no time to talk about, and like a lot of things that weren't. The designer was there at every stage of the process. The thing was that um, there was always a developer, a designer, and a product manager in the room talking about the work that needed to be done. There it was never a different team. That was the whole team, and so uh, everyone had context about what we were doing and more importantly why we were doing it, because we had all been in those user interviews. We had all heard teachers talk about their pain points. We had all so there's let me show you one slide here. You can actually go to so if you Google Eric Cipra, this is his name, Eric Cipra, and MCIA, you will get this post by him, and he goes on to explain a little bit more about the problem space and the approach. But this here is a super interesting slide because all those things that people had asked for, like, um, okay, so these are all stickies that were feedback from the end users because at every stage of the process, we showed our designs to the end users and we got feedback from them. And so all of these stickies relate to some of the feedback that was given. Um, so some of the questions that were asked. So the users saw the design and they asked, "Can I click on the pie chart?" And then we had to think about, well, can you? Maybe, maybe not. But at every stage of the process, you can see like, oh, this is the feedback we were given, and this is how these stickies relate to how we're going to improve the designs. That is not something I've ever seen done anywhere else. And boy, did it work well. Uh, maybe I should, yeah, maybe I should just paste it into chat. I'm also gonna paste the GitHub link in chat. Okay, does anybody else have questions? Okay, I think I'm done then.